My name is Tim Bonnie Threadgill, and this is Timbo Talk. I'd like to thank you for joining us for part 3 of our short series on goals. If you have not listened to part 1 and part 2, I highly suggest that you do that before you jump into the final episode. But I really want to kind of wrap things up with a nice little bow and put a little cherry on top. And so I saved what I feel is the most important part of achieving our goals for this final episode. And that is the importance of monitoring progress. Okay? So we talked about SMART goals in episode 1. We talked about the importance of ditching timelines and milestones in part 2. And finally, we're talking about the importance of monitoring progress, which is not the same thing as paying attention to timelines and milestones. And I will explain why and how that's different. So first of all, I want to share just a couple of quick stats that I found that I think are really important to highlight, okay? So people who regularly monitor progress are 2.3 times more likely to achieve their goals. That's from the American Psychological Association goal setting research. Another statistic that I found that is very important is writing goals down and tracking them weekly increases achievement rate by over 33%. So those are some very small and simple things that we can do that are going to help us to achieve our goals, or at least make it statistically more likely that we achieve our goals. So we want to make sure that we are monitoring progress. Some benefits of monitoring progress. Most importantly, increased awareness. Small wins are easier to track and are easier to notice when we're monitoring our progress. Whether we're doing that through weekly weight checks and pictures, tracking our mile times, okay? But we're increasing awareness. If you notice that you went from running a mile in 8 minutes and 45 seconds, and 2 weeks later, you're running a mile in 8 minutes and 19 seconds. Maybe you're not to your goal of a 7-minute mile, but you're like, wow, that's quite a bit of progress. I'm making progress. And what happens when we see that? Our motivation increases. Seeing progress creates momentum. We're seeing progress. We feel like we're not putting in this work in for no reason. It gives us a little bit of extra wind in ourselves, and we need that. Monitoring progress also allows for course correction. It's easier to pivot when things are not working, when things are getting stale. You can notice that if you're monitoring progress, hopefully in a way that is more efficient, right? That allows us to get back on track. One of the last points I'll make here about the benefits of monitoring progress is that it provides emotional clarity. It helps separate, I'm falling, I hit this rough patch, things are not working out, when you can, and I do this a lot with patients. Patients that I work with will be in a bad moment, and they'll kind of just impulsively be like, none of this is working. You know what I mean? And I have to kind of stop and be like, wait a minute. We had a goal of getting sober. It's been 4 months since you had a drink. Even though you relapsed and had a drink, it doesn't mean that we did not make significant progress, right? Or you had a goal of losing 50 pounds and you've lost 5 pounds every week for the last 4 weeks. This week, you gain 2 pounds. So you're like, oh, what's the point of dieting? What's the point of exercising? This stuff is not working. But when you're monitoring that progress, you can take a step back and pay attention to that progress that we have made. One of the analogies that I use with people often is that, hey, we're climbing a mountain when we're trying to achieve a goal. Nobody just decides, hey, I'm going to climb Mount Everest, and climbs Mount Everest in one trip. Boom. First day, made it to the top. Okay, you have to plan. You have to start climbing the mountain. You camp for a day. You try and do some more climbing. You get a little more rest when you camp the next day. When we're trying to achieve our goals, I encourage people to look at them the same way. You're climbing up as much as you can climb up at any given moment. You're going to stop and get some rest, and then you're going to keep journeying. The mountain also is likely to have peaks and valleys. So there's times where you're going to dip down a little bit, and it can be discouraging, right? But what we have to remember to do is turn around and look at the bottom of the mountain. And while we may not be at the top, we're certainly not at the bottom. And that will hopefully give us some more encouragement. A few ways that are rather simple to monitor progress. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but try these things. They can be really simple. Journaling 2 or 3 bullet points daily about your journey, about your progress. Weekly check-ins are a really, really good way to do this. You can do this with an accountability partner. You can do this with a friend. You can do this with a therapist, or you can do it in your journal. Just journal down and ask yourself weekly, what worked this week? What didn't work this week? You can use a habit tracker. There are apps for that. You can track it on paper in your notepad. One of my favorite things to do is you can leave voice notes to yourself. This is less about how you track and more about consistently checking in about where you are on this journey. Before we wrap up, I want to share a couple of last things. Number one, progress is not always loud or obvious. Monitoring keeps us connected to the fact that we are moving. Even if slowly, we're still moving. Number two, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up. Be present. Goals are not just about arrival. They're about how you work through the process. We have to remember that. A lot of times, the true benefits of achieving a goal is the work, the perseverance, the adversity that we push through in order to achieve those goals. I'm going to end this episode with a fantastic quote from the late and great Jerry West, aka the Logo. He's literally the logo of the NBA if you're unfamiliar with Jerry West, one of the true winners in the history of American sports. But he shared this on a podcast that I listened to just before he passed away a little over a year ago. This is what the great Jerry West had to say about goals. Goals should be written down. You should talk to people about them, and if you do that, you won't give up. Some people hit a wall and they say, "Oh, I can't get through." Oh, yes, you can. You have to persevere. You have to have that dedication. I thought it was such a beautiful and poignant way to cap up what we really need to have inside our tickers to achieve our goals. Don't let the difficulties of the world slow you down. Don't let the variables, the roadblocks, the difficulties that have been presented to you stop you from achieving your goals. All these things are going to do is give you a stronger testimony about the things that you've overcome and persevered through in order to ultimately achieve your goals. I really hope that you guys found this 3-part mini-series helpful. If you did, man, please drop a comment, share any feedback that you have. I'm so appreciative of your time. Please stay safe out there. This is Timbo Talk.